The mortal world is full of sorrow, and the virtuous head is only an immortal. The country has broken through the sky and its face has not changed, while the righteous path of the human world lingers in my arms. When Gu Dan woke up, he turned into a doctor at Tai Hospital. As long as you treat illness and save people, you can receive longevity gifts. Despite all the dangers in the world, he just wants to live forever. Floating clouds flow, changing seas and fields. A hero who met in prison 30 years ago will be called a saint on earth 100 years later. The long-lived turtle that was released 300 years ago has become the pillar of the sky when we say goodbye. A spiritual grass, inspired 1,000 years ago, soared into the sky and annihilated the stars. Time will be the best answer, and he will always stand on the final page of the answer. Keywords of the novel. Hanging the pot to help the world, I just want to live forever without pop-ups. Hanging the pot to help the world, I just want to live forever. Download the complete set of TXT, Hanging the Pot to Help the World, I just want to read the latest chapter on immortality. Chapter 1. Hanging a Pot to Aid the World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Hanging a Pot to Aid the World. In the 22nd year of the reign of Emperor Zhongming of the Great Moon, it was the Grand Hospital. Pain, it hurts too much. Gu Dan lay on the bed with his eyes tightly closed, sweating profusely, his eyebrows furrowed, and his heart and lungs burning like fire. Especially in the throat, it is dry and stinging, as if swallowing 1,000 needles. Water, with the most primitive instinct of his body, Gu Dan went through countless hardships and finally managed to barely utter a word. He felt a piercing pain in his throat and his face became even more ferocious. Wake up, wake up. Good, good, great, great, great. These are all the blessings of the Emperor. Ha ha ha, I knew that the hospital should take care of them. Send someone to report to the Emperor quickly. There were scattered screams and revelry in my ears, but there was not a drop of water to feed Gu Dan. Your Majesty, listen to me. The alchemist intends to assassinate the Grand Hospital, and we must pursue its root cause. If it weren't for the protection of the Emperor's great fortune, wouldn't our Grand Hospital be harming another talented person? Pang Gong is right. This matter cannot be left at that. So a wave of discussion gradually drifted away, but the voice became louder and more intense, making generous statements. After another moment, someone finally remembered that there was still someone alive on the sickbed, so they quickly came over to feed water. At the first moment when he opened his eyes, Gu Dan was about to curse, but suddenly he froze. The person in front of me is dressed in a patchwork robe, embroidered with quails, and beautifully woven in various colors, which is very gorgeous. The torrent of memory is surging forward. Gu Dan was 16 years old at the time. The on-duty doctor at Tai Hospital is of poor quality. The so-called doctor, born as a student, means a trainee doctor. His family had 3 generations of imperial physicians, all of whom worked at the imperial hospital, but it was unlucky for his father's generation. When his mother gave birth to him, he died of difficult childbirth. His father went to the prison to treat the culprit, who knew that he would definitely die after being cured, so he chose to exchange him for his extreme. After all, the relationship was still there, and he was easily taken to the hospital, where he became a doctor on duty in a daze. Although he did not do much, he did not starve to death. This should have been a good thing, but recently, another big event happened. The Ministry of Internal Affairs quoted the price of vegetables, and 1 egg costs 20 taels of silver. Chaoya exclaimed. The words of impeachment were like snowflakes, and the wording was generally not very good. Today, Emperor Zhongming is indeed furious with his dragon face. The treacherous minister is in power, yet he is so rampant. As the emperor of a country, I am blessed with righteousness and righteousness. Can't I afford an egg worth 20 taels of silver, or how can I drip it? Are my virtues not worthy? The person being impeached will either be demoted or be scolded severely. Later on, it was learned that the eggs purchased by the Ministry of Internal Affairs were not born by ordinary wild chickens, but were said to have a trace of dragon blood in the mysterious chicken. The reverence of the mysterious chicken is incomparable to ordinary chickens. I heard that even the sound is extraordinary. Everyone knows that the current emperor is addicted to cultivating immortals and cannot extricate himself. He has not been to court for 10 years, and he is among the great love alchemists. When the Ministry of Internal Affairs caters to their preferences, those who are not eye-catching naturally fall out one after another. But this matter did not come to an end. The Minister of Internal Affairs, why am I too hospital-bound to use it? The hospital, which had already been overwhelmed by the alchemist and couldn't lift its head, was overjoyed. Your Majesty, we also have extraordinary things here. Quickly, the imperial physician's order rushed to participate. There was a pine tree in the imperial hospital, with straight green branches and leaves. The most crucial thing is that the tree is thousands of years old, has survived several dynasties without failure, and has not bloomed for 100 years. Coincidentally, this year, the fragrance of flowers is overflowing. This must symbolize the prosperity of the emperor, coinciding with the peaceful scenery of the country and the people. The green pine trees have a feeling, blooming the flower of eternal life for the emperor, and there is hope for a fairyland. If things only develop here, it may still be a good thing for Gu Dan. Unfortunately, there is no if. The alchemist smiled slightly upon learning about it. Your Majesty, I have 2 pills here that I obtained from the former residence of our ancestors. However, the achievements of our ancestors far surpass those of us, and we have not comprehended the profound principles behind them, so we dare not misuse them. The Tai Hospital is not only a vital place for the country, but also bears the responsibility of dragon health, and may have some ingenuity. So Emperor Zongming, who came to visit the 1,000-year-old pine trees and bloomed for 100 years, conveniently brought the elixir. The hospital is naturally at a loss for the elixir that the alchemist pulled out from somewhere, unable to explain why. Emperor Zongming did not blame him, but was overjoyed to see a 1,000-year-old pine blossom. As a result, he turned his head and was surprised to find that there was a son in the hospital who looked quite extraordinary. Under the great pleasure of Long Yen, he gave him a pill. Well, that unlucky guy is Gu Dan. The gift from the elderly cannot be denied, let alone from the emperor. Quickly, 2 guards were carrying Gu Dan, and 1 guard immediately stuffed the pill into Gu Dan's mouth. Gu Dan doesn't know about the rest of the matter. When I woke up again, it was already a scene in front of me. He knew the imperial physician in the 8th grade official uniform in front of him, who was a close friend of his original father and also helped manage Gu Dan to become a doctor at Tai Hospital. Uncle Su, is this? After being stunned for a while, Gu Dan was finally able to speak again. Just a hoarse and deep voice, with a feeling of sore throat. You can still recognize who I am, not bad, not bad. Su Jian breathed out a sigh of relief, and finally a smile appeared on his face. This is a blessing from the Holy Grail. Good luck, kid. Gu Dan. I can't just say that I want to die. Your father was brutally murdered by a traitor back then, and I spared no effort to bring you to the imperial hospital. Now that you have been framed by a sorcerer, you are fortunate enough to have been spared. This matter cannot be abandoned. Don't worry, the imperial hospital will stand up for you. Perhaps sensing some inadequacy, Su Jian quickly made up for it. What exactly is that pill? Gu Dan cheered up and asked, holding on. I don't know. Su Jian shook his head. That broken pill is black and not smooth at all, it doesn't look like a good thing. However, since Gu Dan can still survive after taking the pill, it must be Emperor Hongfu. You should rest assured and recuperate here, and don't get out of bed recently. Su Jian looked up and saw that his colleagues had already gone to report to the imperial court without any trace. Suddenly, he became very anxious and called out, Xiao Yi, come over now. Soon, a girl who was slightly younger than Gu Dan ran over and said, What's wrong with Uncle Su? Take care of this kid first, don't let him get out of bed. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Su Jian quickly explained and hurriedly left. Watching Su Jian gradually drift away, Gu Dan and Lin Xiaoyi widened their eyes. There are naturally female doctors in Tai Hospital. Although it is taboo to avoid doctors, it is not reasonable to say that there are no female doctors among the 72 concubines of the 3 palaces and 6 hospitals. Can you tell me what has happened recently? After a moment of silence, Gu Dan took the lead in asking. You've been in a coma these past few days, and everyone is really anxious. Xiaoyi obediently began to retell. Soon, Gu Dan had already added the puzzle of his memory. As the saying goes, if there is something good above, it must be done below. Emperor Zhongming's single-minded pursuit of immortality naturally led to the prevalence of this trend in the court and the public. Whenever nobles felt uncomfortable in their bodies, their first thought was definitely not too much of a hospital, but to seek help from alchemists. Just search for it, but unfortunately the alchemist managed it quite well. It's really unreasonable. Dogs and mice are still meddling in their own affairs. The alchemist directly took most of the job at the hospital. Can you bear it? Can. Holy Family is strong, who dares to provoke alchemists in the civil and military affairs of the Manchu dynasty. There is nothing that hospitals can do about it. Until the internal affairs affair escalated, the hospital came up with a clever plan. The auspicious omen that was finally managed to be completed finally allowed Emperor Zhongming to visit, and was once again displayed by the alchemist. How could there be another incident? Emperor Zhongming bestowed the elixir, which was always a kind of divine favor, so everyone rushed forward to feed Lord Gu medicine. As a result, he stayed in bed for 4 days. All the imperial physicians surrounded him, helpless. I'll fuck your mother. After gathering the full picture of the incident, Gu Dan opened his mouth and said nothing but a simple national essence. What? Lin Xiaoyi didn't understand. I'm hungry, could you please help me get some food? Gu Dan forced out a smile. Until Lin Xiaoyi left, Gu Dan's face immediately turned black. Dog Emperor, I wish you to take the pill and die immediately. The city gate caught fire, causing harm to the fish in the pond. Tai Hospital wanted to have a wrist fight with Fengshe, but it was him who was unlucky. Where can we argue about this? The burning sensation in my chest became more and more obvious. According to my recollection, the broken pill may be a clump of expired food crumpled up from hundreds of years old residue. At this moment, Gu Dan couldn't help but close his eyes. What a sin! In the midst of my thoughts fluttering, a white light suddenly appeared. The way of heaven is to make up for the deficiency when there is excess loss, the way of man is to make up for the deficiency when there is not enough loss. The vast and ancient words come to mind, displaying a majestic aura amidst the brilliance. Immediately after, another golden light followed closely behind, unwilling to be outdone. Hanging a teapot to save the world, treating illness and saving people, but doing good deeds, do not ask about the future. 2 lines of characters, one white and one gold, appeared in my mind and then disappeared. Replaced by a brand new line of text. Shoyuan. 26 of 47.33 years, Gu Dan was stunned. Isn't this familiar scene the same as a small game he played called Hanging the Pot to Help the World? Although the opening may seem grand and even the name shows a compassionate heart, the content inside is somewhat too good for a good person to live a peaceful life. As soon as he entered the game, he went to the deep boudoir to treat the young daughter of a wealthy businessman. Not long after, he went to the daughter's country to accumulate virtue and do good deeds. He finally left the daughter's country and just arrived at a place called Ponzi Cave. Before he could seriously criticize it, he woke up and was already in front of him. But now Gu Dan has to accept reality. He has traveled through time. And the lifespan is not too long. Immersed in the words about Shoyuan, Gu Dan's mind gave birth to enlightenment. Because he took the expired pill from countless years ago, his body was vigorously catalyzed for 10 years, not to mention, and he directly killed his lifespan limit of 30.3 years. I used to live to be 80 years old, but now I can live up to 40.7 at most. At least half of the pills are filled with arsenic, right? Gu Dan cursed angrily. One pill saved him 43 years of life. Who can withstand it? If the dog emperor had given me 2 pills at that time, would I still owe some? Taking a deep breath, Gu Dan worked hard to calm his mind. Although he seems to have a short life at this moment, he actually has 21 years left to live. There are even golden fingers around the body, and there are ways to make up for the damaged shoyuan. The problem is that when playing games to treat illnesses and save lives, he mainly watches the process, and he simply clicks to skip the reward of longevity yuan. I'm not quite sure how it will be and how much it will cost. The good news is that he still has time to explore slowly, so there's no need to be too hasty. The bad news is, has my phone been formatted? New book for newcomers, please follow up with fellow Taoists, read the latest chapters every day. B's, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Mr. Fong comes to see you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Mr. Fong comes to see you. After determining his golden finger, Gu Dan carefully pondered his current situation. Tai Hospital is located in Huangda Fong, not far east of the front gate of the palace, which is a place where various government offices operate. Tai Hospital is already considered the closest place to the palace. In terms of location alone, unless someone directly kills at the foot of the imperial city, Tai Hospital is the safest place except for the palace. As long as you don't go to the palace, safety is greatly guaranteed. Emperor Zongming has been suffering from a cold and torment since he ascended the throne for 12 years. After half a month without treatment, I was extremely disappointed with Tai Hospital. Subsequently, an alchemist appeared and managed the dragon's body in just a few days. Since then, Emperor Zongming has been obsessed with seeking immortality and has not been in court for 10 years. The name is governing without action. Over the past decade, the status of alchemists has been rising again and again. Nowadays, none of the civil and military officials have been able to leave behind a few alchemists, and they feel embarrassed to talk to others. I can't talk to Emperor Zongming alone. On the contrary, the status of Tai Hospital has plummeted. In today's Tai Hospital, the highest-ranking Tai E Ling is the 5th grade. And it is an official position that does not require medical skills. As for the imperial physician, there are only 8 grades. Even if medical skills are unparalleled in the world, one's official career is equivalent to that of a county magistrate. If you think about it this way, no wonder all the imperial doctors in the hospital would choose to give it a try. If you don't show your face in front of Emperor Zongming again, I'm afraid they won't even remember the hospital. The alchemist is invincible to the enemy. After clarifying his thoughts, Gu Dan immediately had a judgment. In his past and present life, he had never heard of a hospital that could create any cholera-like tricks in the world, and it was quite common for people to mess with them. Although the pill presented by Fang Shijin had a lifespan of 40.3 years, Gu Dan was not prepared to retaliate back now. A gentleman seeks revenge for 10 years. He can increase lifespan by treating illness and saving people, why rush for a moment? After the alchemist who offered the elixir died, it would be a good thing for him to invite a group of people to come to his grave to play, and sing. Moreover, his identity is unique. Although he is only a mediocre doctor in a hospital, it is also a hospital. It's just a golden signboard. As for the high-ranking officials and dignitaries, he won't even go to seek medical treatment for high-ranking officials and dignitaries. It's natural that it's cured. Can't it be cured? What's the use of keeping you? At this moment, Gu Dan couldn't help but feel a little excited. They're arsenic, my honey. Nowadays, both the status and strength of the hospital seem quite awkward, and the anxious doctors are looking for something to brush their presence. But for Gu Dan, it is just right. The only problem is that although the predecessor was also considered to have read a lot of medical books, he was still young and had no experience in diagnosis and treatment. If you want to directly treat and save people, you may not be able to do it. While Gu Dan was pondering, the closed door suddenly opened. The person at the forefront was dressed in a Taoist robe, with a graceful and handsome face, and an extraordinary demeanor. He walked in with his head held high. Compared to the group of elderly imperial physicians behind him, he seemed to stand out from the crowd and could be easily distinguished at a glance. I am King Pingzi. I heard that the young friend was rewarded by the emperor and swallowed the elixir of the sages. After several days of unconsciousness, he finally woke up and came to visit. King Pingzi's gaze was gentle, and his voice was clear, making people feel like basking in spring breeze. The imperial physician ordered Pang Qi to be behind him, his face extremely unpleasant, and he didn't give any face. Ha! The cat cried and the mouse pretended to be merciful. Tai Hospital is the top medical institution in the world, but the stones in its mountains can be used to attack jade. I happen to have some knowledge of medical skills, which can also alleviate some of the children's pain. Faced with Pang Qi's accusations, King Pingzi smiled faintly and sat beside the bed, asking, "How do you feel, little friend?" Gu Dan fell silent for a moment and said, "Not very good." King Pingzi nodded first, and then placed one hand on Gu Dan's wrist. "I offended you." Before Gu Dan could take any action, a stream of heat rushed into his body from his fingertips and wrapped around him at an extremely fast speed. The burning sensation between the heart and lungs in the body suddenly subsided. Gu Dan's heart suddenly shuddered. His perception is absolutely not wrong. Is that power internal breathing or? The heat dissipated without a trace, and Kaiohiro's originally rosy face turned pale. It was hard to conceal a sense of surprise in her eyes, but she quickly returned to normal. "Little friend, it's hard to say that it's because of misfortune and good fortune, and we have a connection with our ancestors." King Pingzi withdrew his hand and fixed his gaze on Gu Dan, saying meaningfully. Gu Dan looked at him calmly. "It's quite destined. Can it be that I don't have a fate to cheat my 43rd year birthday yuan?" As for what King Pingzi discovered, it was nothing more than being forcefully triggered 10 years in advance. He thought it was the benefit brought by the pill, but in fact, it was a hard cut that cost him 10 years of life. However, Gu Dan doesn't need to explain these things at all. If you have the ability, you can try eating one yourself. Seeing Gu Dan's appearance, King Pingzi couldn't help but understand that the other party didn't believe him at all. After thinking for a moment, King Pingzi took out a sheepskin scroll from her arms and said, "This is a technique of internal breathing that can regulate the body. After the child recovers, practice diligently. If it works, why not go to Qingfeng Temple to find me?" Even the imperial physicians behind Pang Qi couldn't bear it anymore. "Do you have to dig the walls and feet while kicking your nose and face? Your face is not that bright. Don't worry, Tai Hospital has health preservation methods that are not inferior to the Qingfeng Temple," Su Jian said with a displeased expression as he took 2 steps forward. "Isn't it because there's no one in my hospital?" The imperial physician ordered Pang Qi to start rolling his sleeves. Seeing that he had provoked public anger, King Pingzi didn't explain anything and stood up with an unchanged expression, bowing and bidding farewell. Bullying people too much, really bullying people too much. Pang Qi's face flushed with anger, panting heavily. The group of cowards from Qingfeng Temple are becoming more and more arrogant. They dare to go to the imperial hospital to promote their health preservation techniques. The irritable imperial physician rushed forward and was about to tear off the sheepskin roll left by King Pingzi. However, Gu Dan reached out and grabbed it first. A group of imperial physicians, who were originally united in hatred and constant verbal abuse, looked over one after another. Those gazes seemed to say, "Are you rebellious now, kid?" Cough. Gu Dan let out a dry cough and his mind suddenly changed. "I have a word, please listen carefully, everyone. Nowadays, the alchemists are in a state of chaos, breaking the law and discipline, accumulating evil and accumulating misfortunes. They hold no one in high regard and are not worthy of punishment. However, he bewitched the emperor and abused the immortal family's techniques through unconventional means, but no one was able to detect it. As a result, the Holy Family was present, and others could only retreat and protect themselves wisely. But their arrogance dare to leave the foundation of their livelihood in my hands. Isn't this our opportunity? As the saying goes, learn from the barbarians and master their skills to control them. As long as you study and expose their methods, why worry about not revealing the true face of the alchemists? If you destroy them today, how long will it take to obtain this hard-won opportunity? In a state of urgency, Gu Dan's eloquence can be said to have reached its limit. Is it necessary to master the skills of the barbarians in order to control them? Pang Chi's eyes lit up and he stroked his beard, saying, "That's also reasonable." As the imperial physician, he strongly agrees with this statement. Mainly in agreement with the criticality involved. And the imperial physicians who truly understood medical skills quickly passed the sheepskin scroll around, and finally returned to Gu Dan's hands, giving their professional evaluations. Words of madness are like cow dung. Of course, this time the imperial physicians did not turn around and leave so mercilessly. Instead, they investigated Gu Dan's physical condition one after another, and finally unanimously decided that they should rest for some time before leaving. Only Su Jian stayed behind. "Uncle Su, why did you come back so quickly?" Gu Dan finally asked when he had time. "Alas, we used to want to report to the emperor, but that King Pingzi was right beside him." His eloquent tongue and sharp mouth confused the emperor in just a few words. Not only did he not receive punishment, but he also claimed that you had a connection with the Taoist sages. Su Jian gritted his teeth and said somewhat humiliatingly. "It is obvious that this accusation did not meet my psychological expectations, and instead, I was disgusted by someone knocking on my door. I turned on my face and felt sorry for it. However, it's not without any effect. The emperor knew that you survived the disaster and specifically referred you to a doctor as an encouragement. In the future, you can follow me." Su Jian patted Gu Dan's shoulder and said in a deep voice, "You have also suffered. Doctor, 9th grade, can be understood as an assistant to the imperial physician. This has already taken him halfway through the journey of the imperial physician. With just a few more decades of experience, he will have the opportunity to become an 8th grade imperial physician, reaching the pinnacle of medical expertise." Taking advantage of this opportunity, Gu Dan hurriedly said, "Thank you for your kindness, Emperor. However, I have not yet treated a patient. It may not be appropriate for me to suddenly become a doctor. There are so many people in the hospital that there is no need for you to treat and save patients. You should study medical books honestly and ask me if you have any questions." Su Jian let out a sigh. Nowadays, there are various civil and military officials, and every family has its own alchemists. Even if there is any illness, I will not notify the hospital again, and the doctor will solve it. Not even an imperial physician is needed, just a doctor doesn't need to do anything. Thanks to the emperor's great kindness, if I cannot master medical skills as soon as possible, what will I look like? I wonder if Uncle Su has any way to help me quickly diagnose and treat patients." Gu Dan asked. "Nonsense. How can medical skills be achieved quickly?" Su Jian glared angrily at Gu Dan and said, "Human life is at stake. If it's just not cured, it's not a big deal. How about prescribing the wrong medicine that worsens the condition? Even if you're lucky and haven't worsened the condition, how about calculating the delayed treatment time?" Yes. Seeing Su Jian angry, Gu Dan quickly admitted his mistake. After all, doctors are not other professions and can fool things. Life is at stake, and if you want to succeed quickly, you are playing with someone else's life. As the saying goes, a hairless mouth makes things difficult to handle. Even if he really goes out for treatment and uses the sign of the hospital as a cover, others will see him as so young and achieve half the result with half the effort. He himself does not want to become a person who seeks wealth and causes harm, so he has this question. Seeing Gu Dan realize his mistake, Su Jian's anger only slightly diminished. Seeing the obvious look of disappointment on Gu Dan's face again, Su Jian pursed his lips and said, if you really want to experiment with medicine, there really is a place to go. Even if you make a mistake in diagnosis and treatment, it's not a big deal. Is there such a place? Gu Dan was ecstatic and listened attentively. Prison. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Unjustifiable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Unjustifiable. Gu Dan's face immediately turned black. His cheap old father was replaced by a notorious criminal who knew he would die when he went to the prison for treatment. Let him go to prison for medical treatment. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Su Jian quickly added, there are also 3 types of prisons. The one your father went to is called the heavenly prison, which is not much less guarded than the imperial palace. The criminals imprisoned in it are all personally judged by the emperor, and killing them directly is a cheap deal for them. There is no hope of going out again in this life, so they are all people who are determined to die. There is also a type called dungeon, which is often used to imprison various powerful figures and troublemakers in the martial arts world. Each one is worthy of death and possesses martial arts skills, with strict defenses. The last type is prison, which often imprisons illegal vendors, thugs, and petty thieves. There is no great danger, and people are not forced to try their best to perish together. The Dayue kingdom has been established for more than 200 years, and it is difficult to elaborate on the many changes that have occurred during this period. In the process of development, the 3 prison models are also gradually being implemented. The situation of prisoners varies, and the places of detention also vary, with clear division of labor. If you want to practice medical skills without being harassed or even come to your door, prison is a good place. As long as you don't prescribe too much medicine, even if there are some sequelae, it can be said that being imprisoned for too long is a good place to go. Su Jian explained. I'll think about it again. Gu Dan pondered for a while and felt that what Su Jian said was very reasonable. As for prisoners, it's not bad if they don't die. Even if you have any illness, unless you are about to die, the prison is too lazy to report it. Even so, there are not many prisoners who die in prison before their sentence ends each year. Has anyone ever caused trouble? No matter how unreliable the medicine he prescribed is, as long as it is not eaten on the spot and stolen, it is nothing. It is impossible to go to the prison as there is a lesson from the past. Many dungeons are martial arts experts in the martial arts world, and their danger is also extremely high. If they are not guaranteed, there will be those who are unhappy with them. Prisons often hold grassroots people who commit crimes, and their crimes do not lead to death. It is not worth forcibly replacing them with someone else, and the level of danger and risk are the lowest. Most importantly, there is no need to take responsibility. Although there was some calculation in his heart, Gu Dan was not in a hurry. Yin Yuan Jing. The gate of creation, hidden in the gods. Yin Ling crosses the sea, and darkness begins to light up. Gu Dan read it out and slowly reviewed the content on the sheepskin roll. I watched it again. I even looked upside down again. What a mess this is. Gu Dan threw the sheepskin roll aside. No wonder the imperial physicians have abandoned them one by one like worthless shoes. Is this something that a normal person can understand? Can someone say that they can die or something? As far as memory knows, there are indeed techniques for internal breathing and horizontal practice in this world, but it is unknown whether there are immortals or not. The alchemist was able to coax Emperor Zhongming around, even if he didn't go to court for 10 years. If he had no real ability, Gu Dan would definitely not believe it. Having the ability does not mean having no ill intentions. If you want to take it, you must give it first. So King Pingzi deliberately revealed his methods first, and then left behind the Yin Yuan Jing. It's impossible to see him as a genius in heaven, right? It's just a matter of watching him survive after taking that pill, leaving a clue. I didn't even think he could understand the Yin Yuan Jing. If he really intends to cultivate, it can be considered a trap, and the attack and defense are easy. However, the 3 generations of imperial physicians of the Gu family have left some things behind. In my memory, the Gu family also has a family tradition of internal breathing techniques, which is called the Qingmu Huaxingju. According to our ancestors, practicing to the extreme can delay aging. Even in old age, one can still be healthy, with fair hair and youthful appearance. It is not a killing technique in the martial arts world, but more like a further method of internal breathing and health preservation. It's just that it hasn't been practiced for several generations, and it's slowly letting go. As for the technique of horizontal practice, it is not without it. It is only necessary to find a good teacher for horizontal practice, with guidance from someone. If one tries to figure it out alone, they may suffer some hidden injuries or even disabilities, which is not worth it. First, cultivate your body well, then practice your own internal breathing techniques. Gu Dan threw the sheepskin roll aside, too lazy to take a second look. Allow you to do countless calculations and temptations. He has plenty of time, not afraid of you not revealing your secrets. In a blink of time, January has passed. Gu Dan's body has already been well cultivated, and he is currently stretching his body under the 1,000-year-old pine tree in the Tai Hospital. The total number of people in Tai Hospital is less than 200, and there are less than 50 doctors who are truly proficient in medical skills, including him. Imperial doctors are often passed down from family, and occasionally some outsiders may become family heirs. So the atmosphere in the hospital is pretty good, and he's also taken good care of as the only child from the family. After all, no one can be certain that they are just lucky enough to be taken care of by other old friends. More importantly, although Emperor Zongming did not have access to hospitals, the imperial physicians actually had some strength. For a month, Gu Dan has been going to bed and waking up early every day, exercising frequently, and reading medical books whenever he has nothing to do. When he encounters something he doesn't understand, the imperial physicians are also willing to explain it to him. Occasionally, when the imperial physician went out for consultation, Gu Dan followed closely behind and took the lead, becoming familiar with each other's movements. The only regret is that no matter how hard one tries for a month, the family passed down Qingmu Huaxingju has never been introduced. There is a technique of internal breathing in front of him, but he cannot practice it, which undoubtedly makes Gu Dan unhappy. In this regard, he also secretly consulted several familiar imperial physicians. Although the technique of internal breathing is not bad, the imperial physicians all have some knowledge, and the Qingmu Huaxing technique is not unique. It's just that the statements of the imperial physicians disappointed Gu Dan. They also have a family tradition of internal breathing techniques, which their ancestors also practiced in the past. However, in recent generations, no matter how much I practice, I can't even enter the door. It's not that without diligent imperial physicians who have been practicing for decades day by day, they still cannot enter the door. Why is that so? They can't figure it out either. Helpless, Gu Dan can only manipulate some health-preserving techniques. Although there is no profound technique of internal breathing, it can still ensure physical health. After more practice, it can also make people feel energetic. After completing several sets of 5 birds technique in a row, Gu Dan let out a breath and stared at the 1,000-year pine in front of him with a lively spirit. Sitting down, I started a new attempt. There is a saying in the Qingmu Huaxing formula, which states that internal breathing is the essence of human energy. Breathing and exhaling are harmonious, and luck is long-lasting, which can strengthen the body and prolong life. It's just that the leaves are not the same, and the people are not the same. Some people can easily feel the qi inside their bodies, while others cannot enter for life. There are also tricks to use, such as searching for old trees to sense their qi and relying on external qi to sense internal qi. After a long time, Gu Dan opened his eyes and muttered to himself, the sunshine is nice today and the wind is just right. It's a nice day. Brother Gu, are you practicing internal breathing again? Lin Xiaoyi passed by and greeted Gu Dan with a smile as he opened his eyes. Gu Dan nodded and stood up helplessly. I asked my father before, internal breathing cannot be forced. It seems that no one has successfully practiced it in the past century. Occasionally, so-called masters are just horizontal practice techniques, which have nothing to do with internal breathing techniques. Lin Xiaoyi leaned over and said, if you practice horizontally, you usually have to practice from a young age and it will take decades to achieve results. Compared to the effect of strengthening the body, it may not be better than our health preservation techniques. Moreover, the martial arts schools outside teach more about martial arts, while the more powerful ones are about fighting techniques, which is not a good place to go, really. Could you please help Xiaoyi? Gu Dan took out a few large coins and said, go buy something to eat. How embarrassing. Lin Xiaoyi smiled with two small dimples on her face. It's okay, just treat it as my treat. Thank you very much, Brother Gu. I'll leave first. Standing under a 1,000-year-old pine tree, Gu Dan couldn't help but sigh. The technique of internal breathing is not as simple as he thinks. From the information obtained, it can be seen that simply persevering is not enough to be effective. The imperial physicians each have superb medical skills, but they do not admire the method of horizontal practice. They all say that they are brave and ruthless individuals who pursue this path. They have no worries about their own food and clothing, so naturally they will not practice this kind of thing. I know a lot about various ways to strengthen my body, which are thousands of times better than ordinary people. However, this is not what Gu Dan requested. It has been a month now, and my body has returned to its best condition. I have also gained some understanding of the world. However, the technique of internal breathing has not made any progress, and the method of horizontal practice. Thinking of the evaluation of those martial arts schools by the imperial physicians, Gu Dan frowned slightly. The martial arts school has some things, but not many. More importantly, it requires spending money. The imperial physician ordered an official rank of 5th grade, with a salary of only 5 taels of silver. The imperial physician is of the 8th rank and earns a monthly salary of 3 taels. As for him, a 9th grade physician, his monthly salary is even more miserable. Of course, the hospital manages food and there is also a lot of meat, so you can eat as much as you want. As for the herbs needed for treating diseases, they are naturally produced by hospitals without much expense. But after leaving too much hospital, money is everywhere. Before the alchemists arrived, the imperial physicians treated the nobles and nobles with rewards. A lower monthly salary naturally doesn't count as much. After Feng Shi arrived, he took away most of his rice bowl, and the reward naturally disappeared. Even the imperial doctors have to go to the private sector to seek medical treatment for wealthy merchants. But he obviously can't walk this road. The property left for him by his father is quite a bit, but it's all dead money. After spending it, it really never comes back. If you want to practice horizontally, the ordinary medicinal herbs you spend are too easy to pick up in the hospital. You can quietly take some precious ones, and everyone will turn a blind eye. After all, fire consumption can still sustain millions of Chow workers. But persistent wool harvesting. The hospital is not his own. Originally, Gu Dan's plan was to wait until the family's internal breathing technique was introduced before considering horizontal practice. Now, I'm afraid he can only dispel this idea. Let's take a closer look first. There's no need to do risky things, the big deal is just to slow down. Gu Dan shook off the dangerous thoughts in his mind. Since there was no way to enter temporarily and distractions were rampant, it was time to test his golden finger. In prison. Wang Jiantu leaned close to Gu Dan and smiled happily, saying, "You can come as soon as you come. What other gifts do you bring? How embarrassing is that? Just a little palace medicinal wine. After living in prison for a long time, it's inevitable to get a little damp. Drinking 2 bowls a day can still promote blood circulation and promote muscle circulation. If you exercise more frequently, you will definitely be healthy and healthy," Gu Dan said politely. Medicinal wine. Wang Jian's face showed a look of embarrassment as he blinked repeatedly. "I'm afraid it's inconvenient to drink alcohol as I have a public office." "Oh, I remember interrupting. It was some tea, but it was just a little bit of alcohol added. It's not a problem, it's not a problem." Gu Dan waved his hand repeatedly. "Brothers, come and go, everyone should get to know each other. This adult is a 9th grade physician at the Tai Hospital at a young age, and his future is limitless." The prison warden greeted several prison guards with a smile and greeted Gu Dan one by one. Gu Dan also greeted each other with a smiling face, and the atmosphere was extremely harmonious. He came here to experiment with medical skills and treat diseases and save lives. A prison can hold at least hundreds of people, among whom those who have been living in the cell for several years cannot be said to be ubiquitous, but can only be said to be extremely ordinary. It is normal for the body to have some underlying illnesses. Diseases that do not last until death are not even cared for, let alone treated by doctors. Only when the prisoners in the heavenly prison and dungeon are seriously ill, will they invite people from the imperial hospital to come forward. As for the prison, not enough evil deeds, there is no need to take care of them even when they are sick. During this time, there were all sorts of things, and I was extremely afraid of them. Brother, there is something that needs to be clarified. After talking to the crowd for a while, Gu Dan said seriously, with the emperor's favor, although I have been promoted to the 9th grade medical scholar, my medical skills are vast and profound. I am just a child of yellow mouth, both physically and mentally anxious. After thinking for a long time, I have to go to the prison to treat the prisoners in order to improve my medical skills and not disappoint the emperor's deep kindness. Just being entangled in various things, time doesn't wait for me. After diagnosis and treatment, I'm afraid I still need to trouble everyone for help, which has caused trouble for everyone. Let me apologize to everyone first." After speaking, Gu Dan bowed directly. "Ouch!" Wang Guantou exclaimed in surprise and quickly dodged, "Where are you from? After all, you are also a court official. We are just here to beg for food, but we dare not accept such a big gift from you." "That's right, my family's illness is uncertain and I still have to rely on you for treatment. How dare I accept such a great gift from you?" Even the prison guards avoided each other and refused to be polite. The imperial physician, who is not favored by nobles and nobles, is extremely popular outside. There must be connections. Let's not talk about the other person's medical skills for now. Based on their identity, don't they know the older imperial physician? If someone in the family is seriously ill, they won't go to hire a rural doctor. Being able to befriend an imperial physician and still be such a young 9th grade physician can make one's voice even louder when returning to the clan. Hey, as the saying goes, my dear brothers are still good at accounting. After I take the medicine, I have to trouble my brothers to help me decoct and boil it, and then send it to the prison to be sent to someone. Isn't it just a simple gift? Gu Dan took out 1 or 2 silver coins and forcefully pushed them into the hands of Wang Jiantu. Brothers, don't refuse. These 2 silver coins are entirely up to you. If you don't even accept them, I won't be able to enter this cell again. His monthly salary was only 2 taels of silver, which immediately halved. And 1 or 2 silver coins, converted into copper coins, are about 1,500 pieces. If you buy rice, you can buy 1 stone of rice, which is approximately 120 kilograms. Just food, that's quite a lot. The salary of prison guards is even lower, with only 2 or 3 won per day, making it difficult for them to support themselves. Of course, there is plenty of money to be found in prison. How much profit can be divided into 4 directions and fall into one's own hands? Gu Dan directly took out 1 or 2 silver coins, which can be described in terms of wealth and strength. As the heavens brought in a windfall of wealth, Wang Jiantu tightly squeezed the silver and repeatedly said, "How embarrassing this is. This is right. If there is any improvement in medical skills here, I'm afraid it will take months and months to trouble everyone." "Don't refuse," Gu Dan said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Wang Guanto's face lit up with a hint of joy. He patted his chest and promised, "Don't worry, I'm here. If you're not satisfied with anyone, just say it. Brothers, we can't spare him." Gu Dan breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. This matter is settled. Yan Wang is good to see, but little ghosts are difficult to deal with. These prison leaders and guards in the prison are the ones who truly handle matters, and without some practical benefits, it is inevitable to have one set on the face and another behind the back. As it concerns one's own longevity, one must not be too careless in taking on responsibilities. Next, that's the right thing. Gu Dan looked at the prisoners locked in the cell, his eyes shining. Where are these criminals? They are all their own living shouyuan. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Strange people in prison. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Strange people in prison. After giving money, the next steps are simply too easy to handle. Wang Jiantu personally followed Gu Dan's side and, as he passed by the prison cell, pointed to the prisoners inside one by one, saying confidently, "This person stole a neighbor's chicken, took both personal and personal gains, and refused to change after repeated education. He was sentenced to 3 years. This fight with humans resulted in serious injuries and sentenced to 8 years. That's amazing. When I returned home from the army, I found my wife having an affair with someone. In anger, I drew my sword and slaughtered the 2 of them. This didn't relieve my anger, so I ran to the adulterer's house and killed the whole family, sentenced to 10 years. The sentence is 2 years. Sentenced to 5 years. One by one, the prison cells passed by, and Captain Wang kept counting down the crimes and years of the prisoners. The entire prison was dark and gloomy, and the cells were dirty and smelly. The 2 of them walked along, and most of the prisoners inside were in a state of powerlessness. They didn't even look up, let alone shout out for justice when someone came. Wang Jiantu didn't stop until he reached the front of a noticeably newer cell. I saw the person in this cell with a strong physique, dark skin, and powerful martial arts. At this moment, a pair of big hands were holding straw, and their thick and long fingers were incredibly flexible, spinning like flying. Gu Dan looked at him seriously and realized that he was weaving straw shoes in prison. And it looks incredibly skilled in technique. As I look up at the 2 of them, my hands are constantly moving. Beside him, there were several pairs of already woven grass shoes placed there. Is Captain Wang here? The straw shoes are almost ready, and we need to get some new ones. The man's voice was full of air, completely different from the pale and emaciated appearance of the other prisoners in the cell. Even the inside of the cell is not as dirty, messy, and smelly as ordinary prisoners. Who is this? Gu Dan's heart was filled with interest. This is not a criminal, at least not yet. Watching this person, prison warden Wang showed a hint of helplessness. How could someone not be a prisoner in a cell? Gu Dan became increasingly curious. Ha! Yuzhou was hit by a flood and came for shelter. Along the way, there were robbers blocking the way, killing dozens of them and coming over with their heads on. However, before reporting to the government, they were discovered by the soldiers on patrol and imprisoned. The person in the prison chuckled lightly. Although trapped in the prison, there was no sign of disappointment. So what are you? Gu Dan pointed to his fingers, which were still busy while he was speaking. Weave some grass shoes so that you can sell them to others at a low price. Also, you can exchange them for a lot of food, the dark man said with a smile. This is also an extraordinary person. When he first moved in, he said he couldn't eat enough. Let's bring some clean straw over. The brothers were curious, so they gave it to him. As a result, he wove the straw into straw shoes and asked us to sell them at a low price. He didn't want the rest of the money, just let him eat enough. Wan Lao Tu explained. The other party was strolling around with dozens of heads, clearly not an ordinary person. It is said that when 4 or 5 soldiers on patrol discovered him, they were so frightened that they couldn't even hold the weapons in their hands. Or he walked honestly to the cell and waited for examination. And the prison guards are not fools, nor dare they really criticize. In addition, with a slight profit margin, the other party is allowed to weave grass shoes in prison. 1 stone and 3 birds, I admire them. Gu Dan gave a slight bow and said, I don't know how to address it. The dark man grinned and said, Mo Chio. Brother Mo is capable of killing dozens of bandits, and his methods may be beyond the reach of many people. How could he be trapped in a simple prison cell? Gu Dan couldn't help but ask. This statement is not accurate. I killed the bandits because they deserve to be killed. I bound myself because soldiers have their own responsibilities. Why resist? I just stayed in prison for a while, and I'll investigate it thoroughly. Macho said, the grass shoes were already woven, so he gathered them together and stood up to pass them through the gap in the prison door. At this moment, Gu Dan realized that Mo Chio's figure was extremely tall, at least 9.5 feet. He has developed quite well himself, but he is only slightly over 8 feet, which makes him considered tall. Kamokyu suddenly stood up, as if he were a giant. Ordinary people tremble at the sight of it. Like Brother Mo's posture, a few robbers may not dare to plunder, right? Gu Dan asked himself that his figure was already outstanding, but compared to Mo Chio, he was actually much lower. Moreover, the other party was so sturdy that the robbers probably didn't have long eyes to dare to rob such a person. It's not about robbing me, but when I passed by and saw someone calling for help, I went to investigate. But it was a group of robbers who were slaughtering the victims and demanding property, and even more so, they wanted to seize a woman. Mo Chio said coldly, when I saw injustice on the road, I should have drawn my sword to help. Those robbers not only did not repent, but also dared to report the name of the mountain and let me capture them. So I let a few people accompany them to the mountain for a walk. The result is self-evident. Gu Dan's eyes sparkled with brilliance as he chased dozens of people to chop. How strong was Mo Chio's martial arts skills? Immediately clapping his hands, he said, okay, it's great. The bandits in the mountains kill people and plunder merchants, and even if the government captures them, they will do nothing but scatter birds and beasts. Unfortunately, I am only a doctor, and I have no strength to bind chickens, so I can only talk in empty words. Brother Mo, who is doing harm to the people, should be exposed. Immediately, he took out his money and asked Wang Jiantu to send someone to the restaurant to fetch wine and vegetables. I have long heard that the imperial capital is the best place in the world. Today, I see that Brother Gu is indeed well deserved. I happen to be hungry in my stomach, so I won't refuse. Mo Chio bowed his hand and thanked me. Gu has not yet reported his family background, how did Brother Mo know? Gu Dan exclaimed in surprise. People who practice martial arts have clear ears and eyes. Machio pointed to his own ear and said with a smile. Gu Dan's heart was increasingly shaken. Machio obviously heard his previous conversation with Wang Jiantu and others, but it was at least 100 zhang away from here. How skilled is the other person who can hear clearly from such a distance? When Gu was young, he was weak and sickly. Fortunately, his father had some medical skills before he was lucky enough to become an adult. He longed for the style of chivalry in his heart. Brother Mo, with such skills, must also have some reputation in the martial arts world. Can you talk about things in the martial arts world? Gu Dan asked. Chivalrous expert Machio sneered, there is no such hero. The stories that Brother Gu has heard are mostly fabricated by storytellers to attract people's attention. Many of the wandering heroes are mostly idle people who have learned a bit of martial arts and no longer want to work in agriculture. They claim to be superior, but in reality, their eyes are high and their skills are low. He walked around with a long sword on his back, but behind his back, he couldn't tell that he was a thief. It's even more about fighting bravely and fiercely, and if you don't agree, you'll have to draw your sword. Although Chiu is not talented, he is ashamed to be associated with rangers. Gu Dan smiled wryly and said, it was Gu who had a wrong idea. However, not all knights are so useless. I have also seen those who wield swords and act as knights, but they have a rebellious temperament and do things according to their will. There are also people who love their people like children, who hold a sharp sword to uphold their moral principles after scattering their family wealth, but still regard national laws as worthless. Mochio frowned and said, although there is something worth praising, it must never be imitated. During the conversation, a prison guard had already brought the food from the restaurant. Captain Wang opened the prison door and brought over all the tables they were using. Gu Dan took a step forward and asked, although that's the case, I can't help but be curious. How are most of the skills of the rangers? If I encounter them in the future, I will have some thoughts in my heart. Please don't hesitate to teach me, Brother Mo. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Fools Have a Heart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Fools Have a Heart. An ordinary ranger is equivalent to a local ruffian and rascal, but with a slight increase in ferocity. During battles, he looks strange and occasionally calls out in an attempt to distract the mind, causing fear. Such a scoundrel is a local chicken and a dog. If you have better skills, usually 3 or 5 people cannot get close. Although there are no sharp weapons, you can still kill enemies. You have learned 3 parts of your martial arts, so it should be because your skin has already formed. This kind of waste can now travel around and barely make a living. Further up, you can now sit in various escort agencies, and their muscles and bones are seamlessly integrated. If ordinary people resist, even a dozen or so people are on the verge of collapse, and many robbers dare not provoke them. Going forward, that will be Mingjin's side, achieving great success in practicing dirty skills. Even if 100 people are besieged, it will be difficult to achieve results. Unless the military formation is strict, one can stay, and the path of martial arts is already considered top-notch. Machio picked up a pot of wine, took a big sip, and talked incessantly. What about the back, what about the back? Gu Dan nodded repeatedly and quickly asked. Machio bluntly said, from now on, I have become a great master, with a bone marrow like gold and jade, but most of me am old and frail, and there is rarely a time to take action. But there is almost nowhere in the world that I cannot go. Brother Mo is able to kill dozens of bandits, is it difficult to have already entered the realm of the master? Gu Dan was moved in his heart. That's not the case. If you want to practice marrow, you have to accumulate it for years and months, and it may take decades to achieve results. Machio gulped down his food, and the food on the table was decreasing rapidly. Gu Dan had already realized in his heart that Mo Chio was at least a great practitioner of internal organs, and even began to wash his marrow and bones. The other party doesn't seem to be very old, yet they have achieved this feat. It's probably a talent from heaven. After all, as a newcomer, no matter how passionate his heart was, he was not in a hurry to inquire about the other person's whereabouts, so most of his subsequent conversations were casual and rambling. A table full of dishes, Gu Dan just casually took a few bites, and most of the rest fell into Mo Chio's belly. Pleasure. After putting down his chopsticks and taking a big sip, Machio smiled and said, it's been a long time since I've had such a great meal. I can't help but feel a bit overwhelmed. I also want to thank Brother Gu for his generous generosity. After I go out, I'll treat Brother Gu to a banquet. Just a meal, it's nothing compared to Brother Mo's act of eliminating harm to the people. It's just that the prison is cold, and if you don't advance in martial arts, you'll retreat. If you can't even eat enough, it might affect your cultivation. Why don't I borrow some silver from Brother Mo first, at least not to go hungry? Gu Dan took out a few taels of silver from his sleeve, all of which were hard-earned by his predecessor before. It's not that he is stingy with money and unwilling to give it away for free. Just being too eager at first sight can inevitably make people wary, but it is not beautiful. Borrowing silver and then repaying it will make you familiar with it. No, it's not. When it comes to practicing marrow, being full is just being full. It's just that I haven't tasted such delicious food for a long time, which has aroused my appetite. Occasionally, it can still make me feel comfortable. If I have silver, I'm afraid it will be difficult to resist my desires, adding to my worries. Mo Chio first thanked me, then without hesitation, he pushed it away. Seeing this, Gu Dan no longer dissuaded. Brother Mo's talent and talent are the only ones I have ever seen in my life. As the saying goes, the vast sea allows fish to leap, and the sky allows birds to fly. After the investigation of the bandits, Brother Mo will surely be able to soar to the sky. Then borrow Brother Gu's auspicious words. After chatting casually for a few more moments, Gu Dan no longer bothered to inquire, but began to busy himself with the main business. Mochio was an unexpected gain. He came today to experiment with his golden finger. Unfortunately, when he was playing the game at that time, he only cared about the process and ended up skipping. Now regret is useless and he can only explore again. I wandered around with Captain Wang in prison, and among them, 70.8% of the prisoners had hidden illnesses. Among the 70.8, there were also 2.3 who were seriously ill, but they had no money to treat them and silently waited for their death. Gu Dan mainly investigated the seriously ill, and when he inquired one by one, he was surprised to find out that Gu Dan was a 9th-grade doctor from Tai Hospital and even offered to treat them for free. He immediately kowtowed and couldn't stop him. Ding Ji, Tai Zhu, Niu Shi and others will be boiled with these herbs and sent away. When treating, you still need to have a full stomach. Could you please help me with this? The remaining herbs will be prepared when I come. By the time everything had passed, the sky had already darkened. Gu Dan's pen and ink have also been written, but there are still a few packages of medicine that have been prepared long ago. What is this? Wang Jiantu was quite surprised. The patients had not even seen it, and they had already prepared the medicine. This is a bit too mysterious. These are several prescriptions that I have entrusted to the old imperial physician to prescribe. Although the diseases that the people in prison suffer from vary, there are also traces to follow. It is necessary to verify the medical skills and compare them. First, look at the efficacy of the predecessor's medicine, and then compare and explore it yourself. This way, half the effort and twice the result. Gu Dan explained. He specifically asked Su Jian to help open some prescriptions for common illnesses in prison cells and brought them over. As for whether the symptoms are correct or not. Hey, what if the symptoms are not correct, and it won't kill people? Even if we hit hard, we could still hit one or two. Since you want to experiment, you can't be impatient. People are treated by him, and medicine is prescribed by others. Will it actually be effective? Everything still needs to be explored from scratch. As the money had already been given, the prison guards were very easy to talk to, although they didn't know what the comparison Gu Dan meant, it didn't matter. It's just medicine for a few people, and it won't take much time. The silver money given by Gu Dan is enough for them to hire someone to cook and decoct medicine, and there's still a lot left. Time flies, and the 10th day has already passed. Mochio has been released from prison and it has been found that all the people he killed were bandits. Even in the imperial capital, he has gained some fame for a while. After coming out, he received the reward for killing the bandits and specially invited Gu Dan to have a meal. He left his temporary residence address and then left. But Gu Dan's mood is not very good. Shou Yuan. 26 of 47, EP1-10.33 years, it's only been 10 days now, and the prescription prescribed by the imperial physician may not necessarily cure the disease, let alone if the symptoms are similar, they may not be exactly the same. You can't be impatient, Gu Dan comforted himself, still practicing the 5 birds technique. Time flies in an instant, and in the blink of an eye, another month has passed. During the day, Gu Dan recited medical books and exercised his body. When an imperial physician went out for treatment, he accompanied him to observe. During this time, I occasionally have a meal with Mo Chio and listen to him share some insights. In addition, Gu Dan would visit the prison once a day. After each visit, many prisoners were no longer indifferent, but instead kowtowed to him for treatment. However, since Gu Dan chose a few people that day, he has not taken any further action. Sir, even if you can't cure it, just give me more food to eat. Until a prisoner saw Gu Dan about to leave, he couldn't help but shout out. In an instant, there seemed to be a thunderous roar in Gu Dan's mind. He finally knew where the problem lay. Quickly walking to a prison cell, he asked, "Nyo Shirtu, may I ask you if your symptoms have ever improved?" "Reply to your excellency, I still feel a bit uncomfortable." Nyashitu knelt down in fear and immediately said, "Is that so?" Upon closer inspection, Gu Dan noticed that Nyo Shitu's complexion had already improved significantly from his initial yellowish complexion and emaciated complexion. As for whether the illness is good or not, he cannot empathize with it and naturally relies solely on Nyo Shitu's mouth. With a fixed gaze on Nyashitu, Gu Dan spoke up and said, "Since that's the case, the medicine is not right. You don't need to take medicine in the future." "Sir, it works, medicine works." Nyashitu was indeed struck by lightning and immediately shouted in panic, showing panic on his face. Gu Dan's face also darkened. They all say that agriculture is simple, but they do not know that even fools have a heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The end of Shoyuen Rise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The end of Shoyuen Rise. What's wrong? Upon hearing the commotion here, Captain Wang quickly ran over and said, "Young Master Gu, what happened?" "Just as I arrived here, I saw Nyo Shirtu bowing vigorously in the prison and suddenly became angry, saying, 'Master Gu has a kind heart. I will treat you bastards for free, not to mention, and even make you eat your stomachs. How dare you still offend Master Gu now?'" Immediately, a few prison guards were summoned, and when they opened the prison door, they punched and kicked fiercely. You should know that Gu Dan just gave him another 1 or 2 silver today, so happy that he wished he could set up an longevity plaque for Gu Dan. The prison guards only have 2 or 3 won a day to collect, and they can't even eat enough just because of this. They are willing to stay here because there is oil and water to catch. No matter how much oil and water can be salvaged, how much can it be salvaged? A truly capable prisoner is not likely to be imprisoned, either going to a higher level of prison or being sent directly to the heavens. And the prisoners went through various forms of exploitation before finally falling into their hands. Gu Dan is able to give them 1 or 2 silver coins a month to help with some tasks, which is a simple task. Everyone is overjoyed and shows great respect to Gu Dan, never neglecting him. Such kind people are not easy to find. If the prisoner offends Gu Dan and leads to the loss of 1 or 2 silver coins per month, as soon as he thought about it, Wang Jiantu became even more ruthless in his actions. "Beat me to death." Before long, Nyo Shirtu was already bleeding from the head, and if he continued to fight, he might have more air output and less air intake. "Wang Jiantu, forget it, I didn't think carefully about this matter." "Don't risk your life," Gu Dan finally spoke up. Young Master Gu is not aware that most of the prisoners who are locked up here are the scum of extremely dirty people. If you treat him well, he will not appreciate it. He may even curse you for being foolish behind your back. If you don't clean up properly, he still thinks it's because you are easy to bully. A fierce light flashed in Wang Guanto's eyes, much angrier than Gu Dan. I'll vent my anger on you so that you can teach these bastards how to know that there is a path for good people, and we have our own path. I understand. Gu Dan nodded and said, but we can't fight anymore. If we fight again, we'll really be beaten to death. Okay, since Mr. Gu has spoken, let's spare his life first. Wang Jiantu summoned several brothers and, without looking at them, shrunk on the ground into clumps of bleeding cow stones. You keep asking, I'm here to help you keep an eye on it. He said there are several people detained in this cell, all of whom were the ones he ordered on the same day. The prison guard detained them all in one place for the convenience of delivering medicine. Tai Zhu, let me ask you, how is the medication? Has your body improved slightly? Gu Dan looked at someone again and asked. The man named Iron Pillar repeatedly kowtowed and said, Sir, I feel much better after eating, but I still feel uncomfortable. I'm not lying. If the medicine doesn't work, then go back to your original cell. Gu Dan nodded. Yes, yes. Thank you, Lord, for making me eat enough these days. Iron Pillar kowtowed repeatedly, afraid to say more in the fierce gaze of Captain Wang. Ding Ji, how is the medication? Is your body slightly better? Gu Dan looked down at the next person. Ding Jilian hurriedly said, Medicine works, sir. Medicine really works. It's not just about eating enough, I feel like my body is really better. Seemingly afraid of Gu Dan's disbelief, he stood up and punched a series of punches that seemed to be like a pattern. However, Gu Dan had no free time to talk to him. He felt a surge of vitality pouring into his body, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Shou Yuan. 2650.30 years, it's rising. Shou Yuan has finally risen. A month has passed, and whether the prescription prescribed by Su Jian is useful or not should also have an effect. But it wasn't until today that he almost interrogated and finally received a reward. Suddenly, Gu Dan remembered the two words from when hanging the pot to aid the world appeared, as if he had some realization. Hanging a teapot to aid the world, treating illnesses and saving lives, but do good deeds, don't ask about your future but doing good deeds. What is a good deed? A traveler is suffering from hunger and cold, and is about to starve to death. Is giving him a full meal a good deed? Is it a good deed for an elderly person who falls on the roadside and cannot stand up to help seek medical treatment? But what if the traveler, after being full, not only doesn't appreciate it, but also wants to kill and seize wealth? What if the elderly person insists after receiving treatment that it was him who caused him to fall to the ground and cannot stand up, and demands compensation? Just like that cow stone, the medicine is not right, but what kind of act is it to speak insincerely for the sake of a full meal? Good deeds do not count towards your good deeds. The other party needs to recognize it, and only when it is truly useful can it be counted. In order to test the comparison, he had never received a diagnosis or treatment except for constantly taking medication, so he naturally did not know the exact efficacy, giving them an opportunity to take advantage of it. Okay, I know now, you just stay here. Gu Dan's face showed a hint of smile. After asking one by one, a total of 3 people said that their symptoms had improved. Gu Dan only received a 2-year gift. So he diagnosed the person who had never given a gift, and found that the condition did not improve. Under the interrogation of Wang Jiantu, the prisoner opened his mouth and revealed that it was because Gu Dan was only inquiring without a diagnosis, so he boldly wanted to get by and stay here at least to have enough to eat. Wang Jiantu was not polite to him either, and he had to go up and beat him severely before finally giving up. And Gu Dan was also in a good mood, just treating 2 effective patients added 5 years of longevity. It only took him over a month, and he had not been diagnosed yet. He only took the prescription given by Su Jian to find the reason for treating someone with similar symptoms. Waiting for him to personally take care of it, immortality is not illusory. As long as he saves enough people, Shou Yuan will eventually become a simple number. Set a small target quantity first. With the hope of longevity, the art of protecting oneself needs to be put on the agenda. The original idea was to wait until he became completely familiar with this place, especially when those focused eyes on him disappeared, and then use the coffin book left by his father, who had never met before but had a deep affection for him, to learn from the martial arts school at home. But now that he knows Mo, he naturally doesn't want to go to a martial arts school to practice. Leaving aside whether the martial arts school can teach true kung fu, even if it is taught, it may not necessarily be stronger than Mo's abilities. These two will stay for further treatment, and I will go find a few more people to treat them. I will bring the medicine tomorrow, and everything will be as usual. Gu Dan pointed to Ding Ji and a prisoner named Chuejiu. It is these two who have contributed to his longevity for 5 years, but it is obvious that it has not been completely eradicated yet. He can also take the opportunity to try again if one person can pluck wool twice. At present, he searched for several seriously ill prisoners and prescribed a prescription based on his own abilities. He instructed Captain Wang to start feeding them today and then turn around and leave. Just return to my own room at the hospital, only to find Su Jian waiting for me there. Uncle Su, what's up? Gu Dan asked first. There's something good. Here, you keep it. Su Jian smiled slightly and handed over 100 taels of silver ticket. What is this? Hey, an egg in the Ministry of Internal Affairs costs 20 taels of silver. Our hospital is responsible for the health of the dragon's body, so we must not fall behind, otherwise others will think that we cannot take good care of the emperor. Su Jian patted 100 taels of silver notes in Gu Dan's hand and said, just hold them steadily. Since you have an official position, you have your own share. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Colorful Tai Sui. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Colorful Tai Sui. Gu Dan suddenly realized. Or as the saying goes, the Ministry of Internal Affairs can do it, but too many hospitals cannot do it. I waited for over 4 months, probably just to avoid the storm. As the matter with the Ministry of Internal Affairs has been completely settled, the restless Tai Hospital has also begun. Even if I can give it myself, I'm afraid even the imperial doctors haven't run away. At present, Gu Dan no longer declined, but asked, the chicken from the Ministry of Internal Affairs is said to have an unusual crowing sound and dares to boast. Do we also have it? What does boasting mean? Su Jian glared at him and said, the lingji picked from the top of the self-destruction has been made into a nourishing soup for the emperor. It was sent over a few days ago, and the emperor even praised us for being thoughtful. Good guy. Originally, it was to report first and then execute, and receive praise before distributing dividends. Even if someone wants to cause trouble, they must let Emperor Zongming speak up first. Amazing. Gu Dan has nothing to say, willing to bow down. Don't make a fuss about this matter. The group of alchemists farts asking for immortality are both mysterious and mysterious. We have real talents and materials at our disposal, and no matter what, there won't be any problems. Su Jian said with a flushed face. Since the alchemists divided up the share of work and financial resources belonging to Tai Hospital, Su Jian has rarely been so happy. How much reward can one receive for treating illnesses honestly and saving lives? If it can't be cured, it may end up involving family members. What kind of income can be obtained by adding some precious herbs to a nourishing soup nowadays? The future is promising. It's just a pity, the emperor probably forgot about you, sigh. Su Jian couldn't help but sigh when it came to the rise. There is a way to make money, but there is no one around the emperor, so we should not be too arrogant. Don't. As the saying goes, accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger. I am the only one left in the Gu family, and I dare not act recklessly. Gu Dan waved his hand repeatedly upon hearing this. That's to say, many noble people forget things. After chatting a few more words, Su Jian left. Gu Dan flipped back and forth with 100 taels of silver bills, but couldn't help but feel a little emotional. It is said that living in the imperial capital is not easy. If you buy a small house in a remote place, it will be more than 40 or 50 taels. Just this time, the silver money that was distributed to him could buy 2 small houses. No wonder the people in the hospital were moved. However, I have the law of longevity and cannot be tempted by petty gains. If there is danger, I must run away as soon as possible. Reminding himself in his heart, Gu Dan stuffed the silver ticket into his arms. It's time to talk to Mo Chio about practicing martial arts. I ran all the way to the inn where Mo Chio lived, only to find out that Mo Chio had checked out and left him a letter. Upon opening it, it turned out that I had not found any satisfactory job for over a month, and I had visited various martial arts schools one by one, but I was not very satisfied. Why don't we continue to suppress bandits and receive rewards? After returning, go to the hospital to find him to drink. Unfortunately, Gu Dan touched the 100 taels of silver in his arms, feeling somewhat helpless. Although the emperor has not been in court for more than 10 years now, various regions are still relatively peaceful, and martial artists are not highly valued. On the contrary, the ranks of alchemists are soaring upwards, and various Taoist temples are blooming everywhere. Those who are willing to practice within them are unknown. Not many people are willing to learn martial arts, so the martial arts school is naturally not easy. Even if you have high skills, what about it? Unless you run into the army, you have to climb step by step, and without anyone to take care of you, it will be decades of waste. In contrast, although suppressing bandits is dangerous, the reward for silver is solid. If the person is not around, then we can only wait. What Gu Dan didn't expect was that he waited for a full 2 months. In the past 2 months, he treated some new patients in prison, and with a 25-year increase in lifespan, he was able to make up for the shortfall in lifespan immediately. During this period, he received 3 more dividends, each of which was 100 taels of silver. Su Jian's statement is that after the first acquisition of Tai Hospital, all the pharmaceutical farmers were eager to win blessings, and actually picked up 3 strange medicines from the cliffs. Gu Dan frowned, but couldn't say anything. A rare and miraculous medicine is different from a chicken. When a chicken lays an egg, it flows slowly and continuously. But how many times a month can Tai Hospital purchase rare and wonderful medicines, really fooling the emperor like a fool? If we keep going like this, the hospital may have an accident. At that time, he vaguely mentioned to Su Jian, but Su Jian reassured him that they were already prepared. The imperial physician ordered to find someone, and he waited for the profit to be distributed. Don't say much. Soon, Gu Dan knew what preparations were. A farmer carrying a pole walked into the gate of the hospital. The imperial physician personally went to invite him, and all the imperial physicians, including Gu Dan, followed behind honestly. Until the pole is lowered, revealing its contents. It has a shape similar to lingji, with a head and tail. Strangely, this object has 5 colors, red, white, black, blue, and yellow, forming a distinct hierarchical cluster like the rotation of the 5 elements. Red is like coral, white is like fat, black is like lacquer, green is like emerald feathers, and yellow is like purple gold. They are all bright and penetrating like solid ice, and at a glance, it is clear that they are not ordinary things. Hiss, is this Tai Sui? How could there be 5 colors? Gu Dan heard someone among the imperial physicians exclaim in surprise. Su Jian was once again amazed and exclaimed, Tai Sui, also known as meat lingji, is non-toxic, tonifying, nourishing essence and qi, and enhancing wisdom. It can treat knots in the chest, and take it for a long time to lighten the body and prevent aging. However, the 5-colored Tai Sui is unheard of. Quickly, numerous imperial physicians gathered around him, praising him endlessly and marveling. Until the imperial physician ordered Pang Qi to shout out in harmony, saying, such a natural wonder should be presented to the emperor. Numerous imperial physicians agreed, saying that such a rare item is not something that ordinary people can enjoy, and it should be so. Pang Chi's previous dividend was very thoughtful, even he was able to receive 100 taels of silver, and the imperial physicians would only receive more. At this time, no one is singing the opposite song, all of which are boastful words. Amidst this, Gu Dan could only nod his head repeatedly and say, "Amazing, wonderful." I couldn't stop cursing in my heart. Nimas, playing so big, if there's any mistake, the 3 tribes have to thank your whole family. Now Gu Dan only hates running away early without hearing the news. The wealth was enchanting, and he was clearly alert, but he did not leave early. If this incident happens, no one present will be able to escape. Still not stable enough. Soon, the imperial physician ordered Pang Chi to bring the colorful Tai Sui into the palace to offer gifts. But Gu Dan grabbed Su Jian and pulled him directly to a secluded place, saying in a low voice, "Uncle Su, this matter is too much of a fuss, isn't it? Why are you so timid, kid?" Su Jian frowned, glared at Gu Dan, and then straightened his clothes that had been dragged by Gu Dan. He calmly said, "What's all this fuss about? Please ask Uncle Su to clarify." Gu Dan calmed down and tried to squeeze out a smile. "You don't understand now, do you?" Su Jian smiled at the corner of his mouth and said, "The emperor has been practicing for 10 years now. After 10 years of questioning, he has achieved something and should be congratulated by both the court and the public." Feng Shijin offered a white deer, which is said to have the bloodline of the divine beast Bai Zhe and is naturally auspicious. And the gifts offered by several members of the cabinet were all extraordinary, none of which were beyond the reach of 1,000 gold coins. Governors from all over the country also presented rare treasures and competed to offer gifts. By comparison, although the colorful Tai Sui presented by our hospital is considered decent, it does not necessarily hold the top spot. Gu Dan remained silent for a moment. He never took the initiative to inquire about the affairs of the court and the public. He either immersed himself in medical books or found ways to exercise his body, and knew very little about the situation. Unexpectedly, there is such insider information, and no wonder the hospital has been acting frequently in recent months. The kid was too cautious, Gu said apologetically. Alas, the Gu family only has you as a lone seedling, so being cautious is not a big deal. However, if you don't do what everyone else does, it's not possible. The last imperial physician was dismissed just because he advised the emperor not to demand that elusive immortal path, and there was no one to bid farewell to. Although the imperial physician in this position was promoted openly and demoted secretly, he still had some skills. Take the benefits of profit sharing, don't say anything that shouldn't be said, remember not to stand out. Su Jian patted Gu Dan's shoulder and said earnestly. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Martial Arts School Pharmacy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Martial Arts School Pharmacy. Gu Dan received another profit, which was 500 taels of silver notes. It is said that Emperor Zongming was overjoyed when he saw the colorful Tai Sui presented by Pang Chi. This object is in line with the principles of longevity and has a great meaning. Not to mention the 5 colors, there are no 2 in the world, which are very in line with their wishes. Just slightly inferior to the white deer presented by Feng Shijin, and did not win the jackpot. Nevertheless, it is still a reward. The Tai Hospital, which has been shrouded in the shadow of the alchemist for 10 years, seems to have recently revitalized for a second spring. Even the imperial doctors are no longer as leisurely as they are, and occasionally there are summons from high-ranking officials. Just Gu Dan doesn't have the energy to pay attention to these things for now, because Mo Chio has finally returned. Brother Mo, long time no see, what are you? Goodbye to Machio. Gu Dan was quite surprised. Machio was still as robust as before, looking like a giant from a close distance, but with inseparable worries between his eyebrows, covered in dust, his clothes covered in dust, and his face quite solemn. It's a long story. Mo sighed and said, I feel uneasy about what I have seen in this crackdown on bandits. Let's go, let's clean up the dust for you first and speak slowly. Gu Dan chose a restaurant with top-notch cuisine and ordered an elegant room. The place of suppressing bandits is still 100 miles away from the imperial capital, with winding mountains and treacherous journeys. Evil bandits are entrenched in the mountains and forests, and the government's troops have scattered them like birds and animals, with little effect. Therefore, I did not rush to accept the reward for a while. Mochio picked up the wine jug and took a big sip before saying, but soon I found that the bandits in the anti-bandit area far exceeded the expectations of the government, and have become the climate. Oh. Gu Dan was also somewhat surprised. How dare you become a climate even 100 miles away from the imperial capital? If 3 or 2 kittens are not too excessive, the government will be too lazy to manage them. Dare to howl and gather in the mountains and forests, do you really think that an iron fist cannot hit you? Black under the light doesn't mean I'm telling you to order some lanterns. I came to the imperial capital because of the floods in Yuzhou. Tens of thousands of people have been displaced and hundreds of thousands are homeless. This is a natural disaster which is truly helpless. However, the significant increase in the number of bandits in the mountains and forests this time is not only due to natural disasters, but also man-made disasters. With a loud bang, the wine jug was placed back on the table, and Mo said coldly, Yuzhou has just experienced natural disasters, but during this period, taxes have to be increased. Moreover, it is not an additional year. Overall, it is at least 5 years. Gu Dan couldn't help but take a cold breath and said, how dare he? The matter of taxation is related to the livelihood of the people, and it can be said that life is at stake with every relaxation. The natural disaster has not yet passed, and we still need to pay an additional 5 years of taxes. I'm afraid it's crazy. Oh, Yuzhou is already a major grain-producing region. Although natural disasters are devastating, we can still survive them. However, with this tax payment, I don't know how many people are going to lose their homes and have no means of livelihood. According to the bandits, people from the White Lotus sect have taken the opportunity to stir up trouble and incite the people. Some disaster victims also know that they have no way out, so it's better to join the bandits to greatly increase the number of people involved in the banditry at this point. Mo was already full of killing intent. Even if Gu Dan knew that this killing intent was not aimed at him, he couldn't help but feel cold all over his body. Suddenly, he thought of what Su Jian had said to him. The emperor has been practicing Taoism for 10 years now. After 10 years of questioning, I have achieved something and should be congratulated by both the government and the public. Congratulations to both the court and the public. Indeed, the sea is peaceful and the river is clear, and the world is peaceful. Gu Dan's palm has turned pale from pinching, even if his heart is filled with sorrow, what can he do? He is just a mediocre 9th-grade physician, what is he worth? The previous imperial physician's order advising the dog emperor not to be obsessed with cultivation has all gone. On the contrary, now this imperial physician is constantly pleasing and receiving rewards with soft hands. The people in the court have long understood how to act. If Emperor Zongming did not go to court for 10 years, there would be those who could not bear it and had already moved away from the officialdom. Dog Emperor, you must die so hard. The atmosphere at the banquet became dull, and both of them had lost interest. After a moment, Gu Dan regained his energy and said, don't talk about national affairs. Why don't Brother Mo talk about this bandit suppression trip and how much did he gain? Speaking of this matter, Mo's face finally improved a bit. Due to the significant increase in the number of bandits, the reward offered this time has also increased significantly. Although it took several months, he also received a reward of 300 taels of silver. 300 taels is already a very high number. If an ordinary family wants to save so much, it is impossible for the whole family to be exhausted to death for a lifetime. But the suppression of bandits is inherently dangerous, and one careless act could result in losing one's life. If the government sends troops to surround and suppress them, the cost of materials, money, and food will far exceed this amount. 300 taels, Gu Dan's expression was inexplicable. He didn't do anything, but during this period, his income was more than twice that of Mo Chiu, who had worked tirelessly. In terms of ability, he is far inferior to Mo Chiu. But his family has passed down 3 generations of imperial physicians, and even if there is only a single child left, there are still people taking care of him. He is very idle every day, and the benefits of sharing profits are not to mention the salary of white-collar workers. In addition, there are also some intangible conveniences, such as the medicinal materials he needs to treat prisoners in prison, which are all provided by the hospital and do not require money. This is not his privilege, it is the same for every imperial physician who holds an official position. Only certain precious medicinal herbs need to be recorded when used. To put it bluntly, even if he completely spoils up, as long as he doesn't touch gambling drugs and relies on the remaining wealth and prescriptions in his family, not to mention a lifetime of luxury in luxury, the life of an ordinary person is nothing but simple. It wasn't until then that Gu Dan suddenly realized that the second generation was actually me. 300 taels sounds like a lot, but when it comes to spending, it feels like the flowing water is flowing eastward and nowhere to be seen in the blink of an eye. Mo Chiu looked somewhat helpless. I don't want to go to those nobles, really. That bandit didn't leave any gold, silver, or property. Gu Dan asked curiously. This statement is not accurate. Mo Chiu immediately shook his head and said solemnly, the money and wealth obtained by the bandits are all from killing people and plundering goods, robbing business travelers, and persecuting the people. A gentleman loves money and takes it in a proper way. If such wealth is obtained, it will be used as his own expense, but what is the difference from that bandit? I have used all the money and wealth obtained from the bandits to help the disaster victims, leaving nothing. Brother Mo, Gao Yi. Listening to your words is better than reading for 10 years. Gu Dan's heart twitched and he immediately said, Brother Mo's strength is far beyond anyone's reach, but the suppression of bandits is extremely dangerous. This matter cannot be repeated repeatedly, and the opponent must be prepared for continuous suppression of bandits. One mistake can be life-threatening, which is not a good way. In comparison, Brother Mo has skills, but is he interested in opening a martial arts school? Martial arts school. Mo Chiu thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, life is not easy for martial arts schools nowadays. Just talking about buying a venue, every inch of land in the imperial capital is worth every penny. Buying a suitable courtyard for 300 taels of silver is probably not enough. In the middle, we need to build our reputation and recruit students, and we don't know how many years it will take. A martial arts school is not something you can open if you have the ability. You still have to be recognized by others. There's no one covering up there. They go to your house every day and cause trouble. Who can withstand it? Not to mention that nowadays alchemists are highly respected, there are far more people willing to go to the Taoist temple than to the martial arts school. There is no need to consider the choice between a top-notch listener and a caretaker. Gu Dan clapped his hands and said, coincidentally my father left behind a decent residence in the middle of the capital. I have never been there before, so I am still idle there. If Brother Mo intends, it would be beautiful if you and I could jointly open a martial arts school and a pharmacy. Mo Chiu shook his head repeatedly and said, that's the house left by your father. How could it be demolished and turned into a martial arts school? It doesn't match both emotion and reason. No way. When my father was still alive, he once warned me that if I didn't have much ability, I wouldn't have to wait at the hospital. I could also make a living by opening my own pharmacy. However, I asked myself that I was still inexperienced and didn't dare to make mistakes. It was only when Brother Mo mentioned the difficulties that I had such thoughts. We live next door and can also take care of each other. Moreover, medicine and martial arts are not separated, and promoting each other may lead to business success. Even if there is no one around, there is no need to spend much capital, and the place will never run away. Mo Chio just said it, but Gu Dan had already considered it. The hospital is certainly very good, but that's not his home. Not to mention that the current imperial physician order has been causing trouble without stopping. I often walk by the river, how can I not get my shoes wet? Wu Kai Tai Sui taught Gu Dan a lesson, but his caution was far from enough, and he also made up his mind for him. It's too hospital to move out. This Machio hesitated a bit. He has also considered opening a martial arts school. The cost of capital and time involved is simply too high, and whether or not there are apprentices, it is necessary to hire a pharmacist to support them. It is normal for martial arts training to be damaged, and it is impossible without a pharmacist to take care of it, which is a huge expense. Brother Mo teaches people martial arts, while I go out and treat people. During this time, the revenue can be divided into 5 parts. What does Brother Mo think? Gu Dan took advantage of the situation and said, to be honest, I also want to learn some martial arts myself, but the martial arts school outside is really not at ease. If Brother Mo is willing to teach, that would be great. Machio looked at Gu Dan, who met his gaze without hesitation, with only anticipation and excitement in his eyes. For this day, he waited for more than April. Although a large part of the reason is to avoid the attention of those who have intentions towards him, waiting is also real. Brother Gu is very kind. Machio pondered and couldn't help but feel some emotion in his heart. Divide the account by 5, which is a light description. He only needs to sit and teach others, and the rest of the things have to be taken care of by the other party. It is not as simple as a simple sentence to leave the territory and diagnose for others. Not to mention anything else, if you want to open a martial arts school in the imperial capital, you need to first obtain the necessary documents from the government, establish connections, and ensure that you don't deceive others into paying before turning around and running away. Just this step has stopped countless people. Of course, he also knew that Gu Dan was on duty at Tai Hospital, with 3 generations of imperial physicians in his family, and even being a 9th-grade physician himself, so he must have had some connections. Brother Mo, even if you don't agree, I will definitely open a pharmacy. How much more can I spend if I easily open the martial arts school? Besides, even if I have to pay the full price, when will the Grand Hospital have to take care of us? Seeing Mo Chio's emotions move, Gu Dan said eagerly. Since that's the case, please trouble Brother Gu. Machio nodded. The conditions offered by the other party were already excellent, and even the preferential treatment was not enough to describe. Even if things cannot be done, it is just a waste of some time. It's time to cultivate martial arts. Come on, drink and drink. Gu Dan's heart was filled with joy. Opening a pharmacy is inevitable. As for a martial arts school, it is purely for the sake of Mo Chio. Although he had not known Mo Chio for a long time, it was not difficult to see that he had his own bottom line in both the prison and the conversation at this time, and his bottom line was beyond the reach of ordinary people. He can rest assured to practice martial arts with this person. Getting along day and night, with guidance from someone, is even more desirable. After being full of wine and food, Gu Dan didn't hesitate at all and directly pulled Mo Chio to the old house left for him by his cheap father. According to the rules of our past lives, if the palace were divided into a ring road, the house left by my father would have more than 10 rooms slightly further away from the second ring road, occupying a considerable area. Opening a martial arts school is more than enough, and freeing up a pharmacy specifically for him is also a simple matter. Do you understand the value of 3 generations of imperial physicians in your family? Hand a key to Machio, and Gu Dan will immediately go to get things done without stopping. Holding the key to the Gu family's old house, Machio still hadn't fully realized it. Brother Gu, this person is really. After thinking about it, even though he was well versed, he never thought of a suitable vocabulary. He had only known Gu Dan for more than 3 months, and he had not seen each other for 2 months. But the other party was able to entrust him like this, directly giving him all the keys to the old house. What kind of trust is this? On the other hand, Gu Dan had already run back to the hospital and put on his 9th grade official uniform. Although being in the 9th rank of the imperial capital is nothing, it also depends on who you compare with. He's not going to compete for the top spot, 9th grade is already sufficient. As for whether Machio would flip through boxes and cabinets with the key and run away with money, Gu Dan doesn't have this worry at all. Leaving aside the fact that the other party has no issues with their actions or style, what if they really misread them? But it's just a slight loss of silver, plus a thorough understanding of the person. Ordinary people have a destiny throughout their lives, and it is inevitable that they need to be meticulous and even risk their lives to compete for temporary gains and losses. As long as he treats illness and saves people safely and steadily, immortality is by no means illusory. Directly handing over the key to Machio and running away without a trace is not so much because he has a big heart and is unaware of the dangers in his heart, but rather a test for Machio. No matter what you say, it may not be true. Before leaving, he specifically informed that there was some extra money at home that Machio could use it on his own. If the other party really wants to take it, then take it. Even if a fire burns down the old house, he doesn't care at all. The background of 3 generations of imperial physicians gave him enough capital to make mistakes. If the other party has not run away, it proves that their trust is worth it. From now on, you can also rest assured to follow Machio to cultivate martial arts, with all the benefits and no harm. Time flies, 7 days have passed. Machio sat in the lobby, listening to the jingling sounds around him, and couldn't help but feel a bit stunned. After a moment, he murmured to himself, "Brother Gu, you are truly a strange person." Gu Dan has never returned these 7 days. On the 3rd day, a group of people came in with a group of diners. Machio thought it was a thief and almost caught it on the spot. As a result, a young man asked them to come and demolish the house, saying that they wanted to build a martial arts school. There is someone at home, and it's up to them to make decisions when asked. Machio's mood at that time was really hard to describe in words. Nowadays, the work in the courtyard is already in full swing, but the real owner in the courtyard is not at all. People who work often come to ask Machio if they have any questions. What can Machio do? I also went to the hospital once to ask, but I didn't even see the figure of Gu Dan. That can only be done based on one's own ideas. He knows countless people and knows a lot, but it's really the first time he's met someone like Gu Dan. If it weren't for their different appearances, he would have suspected that Gu Dan was his long-lost biological brother. Huh, Brother Mo. Have you been busy these days? Everything has been done. Machio was still pondering, and Gu Dan was already in his early stages, greeting with a smile. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Mahist Martial Arts School. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Mahist Martial Arts School. Brother Gu. After 7 days, seeing Gu Dan again, Machio seemed to have 1,000 words to say. For example, are you too confident with me? For example, calling people over directly but letting me handle the renovation is not too reckless. But when it came to his words, he hesitated. Gu Dan had a great deal of trust in him. If I asked him this question again, would it be that I couldn't believe my character or that Gu Dan didn't know anyone? Although he always felt that something was not right, Gu Dan's heart for his Red City was completely not fake. Brother Mo, why don't you ignore me? Gu Dan took the initiative and earnestly said, I know nothing about martial arts school matters. Professional matters naturally have to be entrusted to professional people. If I were on my side, Brother Mo might have to consider my opinion, which would not be beautiful. Brother Gu's trust in me is really impressive. Machio felt a bit overwhelmed for a moment. He asked himself that he was already considered a fair and upright person, and perhaps it was impossible to entrust his family business to others without any intervention. Alright, let's not talk about that anymore. Come out and see what I've brought. Gu Dan couldn't help but drag Mo Chio into the courtyard. I saw two people holding a huge plaque with 4 characters written on it. Mo Family Martial Arts School. This signboard is a calligraphy treasure that I specially invited a disciple in charge of the Internal Affairs Department to write, and then I will ask a craftsman to copy it. Although the imperial capital is large, it is evident that there are probably not many people who dare to come and cause trouble with this signboard. Gu Dan said confidently. As the saying goes, a person's name is the shadow of a tree. The head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs holds a second-rank official position, and although the ink treasures left by his disciples may not be very precious, they symbolize an indispensable relationship. Ordinary people tend to be indecisive when it comes to handling affairs, depending on their facial expressions. But he was dressed in a 9th-grade official uniform, especially so young that no one underestimated him. In addition, after reporting his family background, he learned that Gu Dan, at a young age, had become a 9th-grade medical practitioner in the Imperial Hospital, and was specially promoted by the Emperor. For a moment, it seemed like he didn't come to ask for help, but instead received a lot of courtesy. Everyone hates people pulling connections and using backdoors, only to realize that it's really convenient when you use it yourself. I have reached a higher level and always encounter more good people. Although the position of a 9th-grade physician is not high and his status is not very good, he is still a hospital. Even if he is in a low position, he can directly reach the heavens and listen, let alone Gu Dan, who has once been in the eyes of the emperor. Although Emperor Zhongming forgot about him, others don't know. He has little interest in official career, but is willing to form good relationships with others. If you have feelings and I have intentions, naturally it will be a happy and smooth journey for both guests and hosts. Mo Family Martial Arts School. This is your family business, how can you name it? Mo Chio didn't look at it, but at first glance, he almost couldn't catch his breath. Why is the meaning of occupying a magpie's nest becoming increasingly important? Gu Dan can't really be his long-lost biological brother, can he? It's just a name. Gu Dan waved his hand indifferently and said, Brother Mo has cleared the bandits twice and has already gained some reputation. We can only use your name to open a martial arts school so that people can know our abilities. If we take the name of the Gu Family Martial Arts School, who knows who I am? Even so, this is too much. Machio, who was accustomed to the strong winds and waves, was speechless for a moment. When Gu Dan acts, there are always unexpected things. And he could always say some reasonable words to cover it up, but it seemed that he was so surprised and a bit too pedantic. I haven't communicated with Brother Mo about this matter before, so I hope Brother Mo won't blame me for acting on my own. Gu Dan immediately said, not giving Mo Chio a chance to finish speaking. He naturally has his own careful thinking. Since Machio did not run away with the payment, it proves that this person is not misled by external things and is trustworthy. Since that's the case, it's natural to tie Machio to his side. He's a big bodyguard. Not to mention that he also wants to learn martial arts from Machio. If he is good to Machio, he is betting on his own future. Compared to going to other martial arts schools to seek advice from grandparents, it is not necessarily possible to learn some true teachings. What is the value of this effort? Exchange sincerity for sincerity. How could you blame me? Brother Gu is truly sincere and sincere towards others, which I have only seen in my life. I cannot reach him, Machio shook his head and said with emotion. You and I don't need to praise each other, I've not just finished a plaque these 7 days. Gu Dan pointed to another honest middle-aged man and smiled, saying, this is the chef I specially brought here. He is a personal descendant of the imperial kitchen in the imperial kitchen. Let's have good food to eat in the future. Food is the paramount necessity of the people, and martial arts practitioners are even more so. In terms of nutrition, we must take it down. The ingredients are just one aspect, and on the other hand, the chef's craftsmanship is also of utmost importance. Mais can come later at his age, but food is not enough, even missing a bowl is not enough. This imperial chef personally passed it on, and it was he who entrusted Su Jian's relationship to find him. Pao Sheng. The middle-aged man remained silent, glanced at Mo Chiu, said a name, and then stopped speaking. A cook is also a kitchen. The name Pao Sheng can be understood as a person living in the kitchen. Pao Sheng is a disciple adopted by the retired imperial chef, and even his name was chosen by himself, simple and direct. After another conversation, Gu Dan was busy with his business. His pharmacy also needs to be opened, but medicinal materials cannot be taken from too many hospitals. Going to the prison for treatment can still be said to preserve the country's vitality. It is natural to use medicinal materials from hospitals, even if someone is picking on them, it is not a big deal. The pharmacy is a genuine personal name, and there is no need to take risks for a small profit. He still contacted the supply channel of Tai Hospital, and the things he wanted were not even worth 2 or 3 kittens compared to Tai Hospital. But the other party is also very polite, just consider it a good relationship as long as the cost price is met. The so-called relationship comes out step by step. Invisibly, it saved him a lot of trouble. At this moment, the entire house was under construction, and his pharmacy certainly couldn't open yet, but the plaque had already been set up. A health-preserving pharmacy. It may not be a unique name, but it fits his heart perfectly. In addition to these serious matters, he also spent a small amount of money to let a group of children promote the Mo Family Martial Arts School. What? Do you not know the Mahist Martial Arts School? It's the martial arts school opened by the 9-foot-tall and powerful hero Mo, who managed to pacify 2 bandit dens within 2 months. If it weren't for the fear of too much hype and unnecessary trouble, he would even invite a storyteller to make up a story about the fierce bandits in the 3 battles of Machio in the forest, and the initial manifestation of the power of the Maggia martial arts school. He would tell it several times a day. Everything was on the right track, and he was finally able to start practicing martial arts as he had hoped. Before that, we need to go to the Tai Hospital and let Su Jian know. After all, in name, he still follows Su Jian's doctor and will be living in the old house in the future, so he still needs to say hello. However, as soon as he walked out of the door, Gu Dan paused. He saw an unexpected guest. Fengshi, King Pingzi. Little friend, we meet again. King Pingzi has a smile on her face, and her voice is clear and transparent, making her feel like a spring breeze. Gu Dan's heart suddenly sank. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Mutual pulling and pulling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Mutual pulling and pulling. More than April has passed, and Gu Dan is no longer as ignorant as when he first arrived. A new judgment has also been made on the current power and status of the alchemists. The alchemist was able to gain the favor of Emperor Zongming, and even had the ability to ask for immortality without going to court for 10 years. King Pingzi is the alchemist who once treated Emperor Zongming's cold and indirectly led him to seek immortality. The trust and favor of the emperor are the best capital. Nowadays, Taoist temples are blooming everywhere, and those who are willing to enter and offer incense are unknown. The alchemist in front of us should be the first to achieve this. The only time he met King Pingzi was when he was forced to swallow the pill bestowed by Emperor Zongming at the Imperial Hospital and woke up again. The other party also specially left a copy of the Yin Yuan Jing. The problem is that Gu Dan is not familiar with him at all, let alone have any other intersection. King Pingzi, how did you find his old house? Even coincidentally blocking his door. For the past 4 months, he has been able to be considered a good and obedient person. Even going to prison to treat prisoners was an excuse for Emperor Zongming's promotion, and he dared not bear it for nothing. He just wanted to fade the gaze that had gathered on him. Unexpectedly, as soon as there was a movement, King Pingzi approached the door. If it were a coincidence, Gu Dan would never believe it. After a moment of stiffness, Gu Dan's face showed a warm spring breeze smile and said, "So it's you. So coincidentally, we've met again. Unfortunately. King Pingzi shook his head and said, I had to search for someone before I found my friend. Oh. Gu Dan asked curiously, I don't know why Chang came to me. King Pingzi didn't waste any time and said straightforwardly, after swallowing the elixirs of our ancestors, I woke up and my body was nourished by the medicinal power. I have a good connection with our ancestors. However, I don't know if I have ever been introduced to the Yin Yuan Jing that I left behind. Yin Yuan Jing. Gu Dan pondered for a moment before clapping his palm and saying, I remember. Are you referring to that sheepskin roll? I'm really sorry, I didn't understand. King Pingzi. Those eyes, which had always appeared quite indifferent, stared at Gu Dan without blinking, as if wanting to see through the truth of what Gu Dan said. Gu Dan looked at him without any hesitation, his eyes clear. Can't you imagine it? I really didn't understand. Perhaps it was the sincerity in Gu Dan's eyes that moved King Pingzi. King Pingzi took a deep breath and said, the classics of our ancestors are indeed exquisite and extraordinary. I have never had contact with Taoism, so it is normal for me to have difficulty understanding them. It was my carelessness. To be honest, although the technique of internal breathing is mysterious, I have never even learned the internal breathing technique passed down from my own family. Moreover, even many imperial physicians' internal breathing techniques have not been successfully practiced. Gu Dan sighed and began to tug, I am still a mortal body, and I have no connection with seeking immortality. The Taoist is well-intentioned, and I am grateful. However, without that connection, I will not force it. Little friend, this is not true. Life is not full, and opportunities are right in front of us. We must strive to seize them. The ancient sages' elixirs have endless benefits, but ordinary people cannot afford them. Since you can swallow the elixirs and wake up, it must be suitable for the ancient sages' methods. King Pingzi shook his head. Oh. I just don't know what that pill really is, how could it make you so focused? This time it was Gu Dan's turn to stare at King Pingzi without blinking, trying to see some differences. King Pingzi thought for a moment and said seriously, the pill you have taken is derived from the ancient alchemy furnace. Its name is Baking Furnace Creation Pill, which has a miraculous effect on improving physical fitness. Many of the necessary medicines have been lost. Moreover, its medicinal power is too strong for ordinary people to bear. Oven-making pill. However, that elixir must be at least expired food from hundreds of years ago, and may not even have been refined at all. Gu Dan couldn't help but understand in his heart that that thing had directly pitted his 40.3-year lifespan, and he couldn't forget anything about that pill. At present, pretending to be helpless, he said, improving my physique. Do you think my physique can be improved? I have not yet practiced martial arts, so I am not aware of it. The strength of my blood and energy is far greater than that of my peers. Although I have not seen any other supernatural things, I cannot be certain. Therefore, I am giving you the method of the ancient sages. King Pingzi said sincerely. Gu Dan had previously stated that he was not very interested in seeking immortality, otherwise he wouldn't have made such a comprehensive statement about the efficacy. If there is nothing in his heart, then he can only take the initiative. Can the Yin Yuan Jing really cultivate immortality? Gu Dan was moved in his heart. Since King Pingzi could coax Emperor Zongming around, he may have truly understood some mysterious and wonderful techniques. The Yin Yuan Jing was indeed obtained from the miraculous teachings of our ancestors, but the trace of immortality is elusive and difficult to find. How can I determine whether I can practice the immortal method or not? We are both people who strive to cross the mortal world, but the opportunity is fleeting. King Pingzi smiled slightly. I'm not afraid of you asking, but I'm afraid you won't be moved. Really? That's too bad. Gu Dan sighed and said, I am just a tiny ordinary person. I have not even received the favor of immortality like the Taoist priest. How dare I expect the favor of immortality? There will be an end to everyone, and immortality is elusive. As long as I can live my life peacefully, it is stronger than anything else. No matter how eloquent you are, I can only express one attitude. Master, I'm showing off. King Pingxi's face remained unchanged, and his words changed. I have heard of the changes in my family, young friend. While there is nothing wrong with wanting to live a stable life, there are always myriad waves in the world. While there is no harm to one's heart, one must not lack self-defense techniques. Can you be willing to enter the Qinfeng temple and practice the method of internal cultivation? I dare not speak when seeking immortality, but it is not a false belief to have a healthy body and prolong one's life. Gu Dan felt a chill in his heart. This coward has definitely set his sights on him, not only exploring his whereabouts, but even recording his background. At the end of the day, he was just taking a pill from the alchemist. As for thinking about him like this, the current Qinfeng temple holds a very high status. Although the King Pingxi in front of him appears to be very friendly, the time Emperor Zongming spent with him was much longer than that of officials. To be fair, if he didn't have the method of immortality, he would really be tempted. Unfortunately, the alchemists were too sharp, and there were not many people watching them from behind. Whenever there was a chance, they would definitely retaliate in every way possible. What's the point of being prominent for a while? He will pick up what he needs on his own, it's just a matter of time. The Taoist's kindness surprised me. Gu Dan's face showed a moving expression, and his expression appeared quite struggling. After hesitating for a moment, he said, everyone has their own aspirations. There is a saying in his hometown that goes, how much can you eat? Although the words are shallow, the truth behind them cannot be understood. The Qinfeng temple is famous all over the world, and countless people are unable to enter. The Taoist priest was able to invite him warmly, and I am deeply grateful. But I only have a slight understanding of medical skills, and I have little hope of asking for immortality. The thing I want to do the most in my life is to be able to hang a teapot to help the world, treat illnesses and save people. The Taoist's kindness, I dare not accept it, I can only appreciate it. End of this chapter.